It started with a look. Not just any look, but the kind of gaze that lingers even when the person has walked away. I was never one to believe in fate, but the day I saw her standing at the edge of the cafe, sunlight wrapping around her like it was made only for her, I knew something inside me had shifted. Her name was Elena. I didn't know that yet, but I remember her lips moving as she ordered a black coffee, her hair falling in a cascade of soft waves over her shoulder. She was elegant without trying, confident without arrogance, and there was something magnetic in the way she carried herself. I had come to that cafe to escape my family's constant lectures, escape the endless stream of expectations from work, escape the version of myself I had been trained to perform. But then she walked in, and suddenly escape wasn't enough. I wanted discovery. When our eyes finally met, it wasn't fleeting. She held my gaze like she had been waiting for it. A small smile curved at the corner of her mouth, one that was neither shy nor bold but somewhere in between, a secret smile. My pulse quickened, and I looked away, embarrassed by the heat rising in my chest. She sat across the room, not too far, not too close. Every now and then, I could feel her eyes brushing against me, and it made my skin tingle. I tried to read, tried to distract myself, but the words blurred on the page. She was all I could see, all I could feel. When I finally got up to leave, my hands trembling slightly, I felt a sudden rush of bravery, or maybe recklessness. I turned to glance back at her, and she was watching me again, that same secret smile playing on her lips. Without thinking, I mouthed the words, "Hi." To my shock, she mouthed back, "See you again." I walked out of the cafe that day with my heart racing, my entire body alive with something new. I didn't know her name, her story, or even if we would meet again. But deep inside, I knew something had begun, a quiet rebellion against the life I had been told to live. I didn't know it then, but Elena would change everything. She would make me question rules I had lived by, traditions I had never dared to break, and fears I had always carried. Our love wouldn't be accepted. It wouldn't be easy. It would be dangerous, forbidden, intoxicating. But it would also be real. And that was enough for me to want it, no matter the cost. The next time I saw her, it wasn't in the cafe, it was in the library of all places. I had my usual stack of books, desperate to bury myself in words and pretend that the world outside wasn't pulling me apart. And then, like a scene I never dared to dream, she was there. Elena. She sat 2 tables away, a thick novel in her hand, her legs crossed effortlessly, the hem of her skirt riding just enough to reveal a hint of soft skin. My breath hitched before I could stop myself. She noticed me, of course she did, and that same mischievous smile appeared, the one that felt like it belonged only to me. I tried to ignore it, to keep my eyes down, but she didn't let me. After a few minutes, she walked over, her steps confident yet graceful, and stopped right in front of my table. "Do you always stare at people like that?" she asked softly, her voice a low melody, "or am I just special?" My cheeks burned. I wasn't staring. She raised a brow, clearly amused. Liar. And just like that, we were talking, about books, about music, about the small things that didn't matter and the big things we didn't dare say out loud. Her laugh was addictive, rich and warm, and every time her hand brushed the table near mine, I felt an electric jolt shoot through me. We talked until the library lights dimmed, signaling closing time. Neither of us wanted to leave. There was an unspoken pull between us, a tension that grew heavier with every glance, every pause, every breath. When we finally walked out together, the night air was cool, but I felt flushed, as if fire ran through my veins. She walked close, so close her shoulder brushed mine, and I couldn't help but lean in ever so slightly. "You know," she whispered as we stopped near the street, "I've seen you before. At the cafe. You're hard to miss." My heart pounded. "You remembered." "How could I not?" she said, her voice husky now, her eyes searching mine. "You have a way of looking at me, like you're seeing more than you should." The silence stretched, heavy and dangerous, until finally she leaned closer, so close her breath tickled my lips. I froze, not out of fear, but out of desire so strong it almost scared me. And then, just when I thought she'd kiss me, she pulled back with a teasing smile. "Not tonight," she murmured. "But soon." I watched her walk away, my chest aching with longing, my body trembling with need. For the first time in my life, I wanted something, someone, so badly it hurt. And I knew, without a shadow of doubt, that I would break every rule I had ever lived by just to taste what it felt like to have her. The days that followed blurred into something dangerous and delicious. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, Elena's smile, her voice, her touch that lingered longer than it should. She was in my dreams, in my thoughts, in every breath I took. I tried to resist, but resistance was useless. We met again at the cafe, as though fate itself insisted on weaving us together. She sat across from me, her chin resting lightly on her palm, watching me with those eyes that seemed to see past every wall I had built. "You're quiet today," she teased, sipping her coffee. "Maybe I don't know what to say to you," I admitted. Her lips curved. "Then don't say anything." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was alive, humming with unspoken desire. Every glance between us felt like a touch, every brush of her hand against mine on the table felt like a spark. And then she leaned closer. "Walk with me," she whispered. We left the cafe and strolled down a quiet street lined with old buildings and soft pools of lamplight. The world felt hushed, like it had stepped aside to give us this moment. Our shoulders brushed as we walked, and when her fingers grazed mine, I couldn't stop myself from entwining them with hers. She stopped suddenly, turning to face me. Her hand lifted to my cheek, so gentle it made my chest ache. "You're trembling," she said softly. "I'm terrified," I confessed. "Of me?" "No. Of how much I want you." Her breath caught, and for a heartbeat, we just stared at each other, caught in a storm neither of us could control. Then, without warning, she closed the space between us and kissed me. It wasn't hesitant. It wasn't shy. It was fire and hunger, all the things we had been holding back crashing into one another. Her lips moved against mine with urgency, with need, and I melted into her, my hands gripping her waist as though I might lose her if I let go. The kiss deepened, turned hotter, wetter, our breaths mingling, our bodies pressed too close to care. My knees weakened, and I clung to her, tasting the wildness, the forbidden sweetness of something I had never dared imagine. When we finally pulled apart, gasping, her forehead rested against mine. "This," she whispered, her voice trembling with the same desire that burned in me, "is going to ruin us." "Or save us," I breathed. She smiled then, a dangerous, intoxicating smile. "Either way. I don't want to stop." Neither did I. For the first time in my life, I felt alive, not because I was doing what was expected of me, but because I was doing what my heart craved. And even though I knew the world would never accept it, in that moment, I didn't care. Because I had tasted Elena. And I knew I would never be the same. After that first kiss, there was no turning back. Every glance, every touch between us grew heavier, hotter, impossible to ignore. It was as if the universe had conspired to pull us into each other's orbit, and we were helpless to resist. One evening, Elena invited me to her apartment. My heart raced the entire way there, nerves and excitement battling in my chest. I kept telling myself we were just going to talk, maybe share another kiss, but deep down I knew it would be more. Her place was warm, lit with soft lamps instead of harsh overhead lights. A record player hummed in the corner, filling the room with a slow, sultry tune. She handed me a glass of wine, and when our fingers touched, I felt the spark all over again. We sat on the couch, close but not quite touching, the air between us thick with tension. She leaned in, her lips brushing my ear as she whispered, "I've thought about kissing you every night since the first time." I turned to her, my breath shallow. "Then stop thinking." Her lips found mine in an instant, hungry, desperate, consuming. I tasted the wine on her tongue, felt the heat of her body pressed against me. Her hand slid into my hair, tugging gently, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. When she guided me back onto the couch, her body covering mine, I let go of every fear, every doubt. Her touch was fire, her kisses endless. She explored me slowly, deliberately, as though memorizing every curve, every breath, every sound I made. "Tell me to stop," she whispered against my lips, her voice trembling with restraint. "Don't you dare stop," I whispered back. Clothes slipped away, barriers crumbled, and soon we were skin to skin, nothing between us but heat and need. Her touch was both tender and fierce, making me gasp, making me ache for more. Every sigh, every moan felt like a confession, a declaration of the love neither of us had dared speak out loud. Time blurred. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only her mouth, her hands, her body tangled with mine. She kissed me like she owned me, and I let her, because I wanted nothing more than to be hers. When it was over, we lay tangled in each other's arms, our breathing uneven, our hearts racing. She traced lazy circles on my skin, her eyes soft but filled with fire. "This isn't just desire," she murmured, almost to herself. I kissed her shoulder. "I know." We had crossed the line, shattered every rule we had been told to obey. And yet, lying in her arms, I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. Free, and utterly hers. The days after that night blurred into something dangerous yet beautiful. We became addicted to each other, stolen glances across rooms, secret touches when no one was watching, whispered promises in the dark. Every chance we got, we found each other. At the cafe, she would brush her hand against mine as she passed me sugar. In the library, her knee would press against mine under the table, sending shivers down my spine. At her apartment, our passion burned hotter each time, our bodies memorizing each other like prayer. But we never spoke of what this meant outside those doors. The world we lived in wasn't kind to women like us. My family would never understand. They already had plans for me, a man, a marriage, a life that wasn't mine. Elena had her own battles, a job that demanded she keep her personal life invisible, a family that valued appearances more than truth. So, we kept our love in the shadows. Hidden but alive. Yet secrecy has its own weight. There were nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was strong enough to live two lives, the one the world expected, and the one I had with Elena. One evening, as we lay in her bed, I whispered, "What happens if they find out?" Her fingers tightened around mine. "Then let them. I'd rather be hated for loving you than live without you." Her words both terrified and comforted me. I knew she meant them. I also knew the storm that would follow if anyone saw us together. And soon, someone did. It happened on a rainy afternoon. Elena and I had slipped into a small bookstore, our hair damp, our hands brushing as we laughed quietly over a shared umbrella. It felt innocent, almost ordinary. Until it wasn't. I didn't notice her at first, my cousin, standing near the poetry shelf, her eyes widening as she saw us. She saw Elena's hand resting on my arm, the way I leaned into her without hesitation. She didn't say anything in the moment, but her gaze was sharp, cutting through me like a blade. The message reached my family before I did. That night, my mother confronted me, her voice cold, her words laced with disgust. "Is it true?" she demanded. "Are you with her?" I tried to deny it, but the lie burned on my tongue. Finally, I whispered, "Yes." The silence that followed was louder than any scream. My mother's face twisted with fury. "You will end this. Do you understand? You will end it, or you will destroy everything." Tears burned my eyes, but my voice was steady. "I can't." The slap came fast, stinging across my cheek. then you're no daughter of mine. I left the house that night shaking, broken, but also strangely free. I went to Elena, tears spilling down my face. She held me, rocking me gently, whispering, "I've got you. Always." But the truth was clear now. Our love was no longer just ours. The world knew. And it would never accept us. The weeks that followed were hell. My family stopped speaking to me. Friends I had known for years looked at me differently, whispers trailing behind my back. At work, the tension grew thick, rumors spreading like wildfire. But through it all, Elena was my anchor. We built a world of our own in the cracks of the one that rejected us. Nights spent wrapped in each other's arms, mornings filled with soft kisses and whispered plans. We dreamed of leaving, of finding a place where no one cared who we loved, where we could walk hand in hand without fear. Still, the weight was heavy. There were days I broke down, sobbing into her chest, asking if we were strong enough. She would lift my chin, her eyes fierce. "We are. Because love like this doesn't happen twice." Her certainty kept me alive. Our passion only deepened, every kiss a rebellion, every touch a declaration that we belonged to each other despite the world's cruelty. One night, as we lay tangled in sheets, Elena whispered, "Let's go away. Just you and me. Somewhere no one knows us." The idea was reckless, impossible, yet it planted itself in my heart. For the first time in weeks, hope bloomed again. We didn't know where we were going, or how we would survive. All we knew was that staying meant dying slowly, piece by piece. Leaving meant a chance, a dangerous, fragile chance, for freedom. And for us, that was enough. The night we left, the city was asleep. We packed little, just clothes, books, and the fragments of our broken lives. Hand in hand, we walked to the station, our breaths visible in the cool night air, our hearts pounding with fear and exhilaration. "This is it," Elena whispered, squeezing my hand. "Are you scared?" I asked. "Terrified," she admitted. "But I'd rather face the unknown with you than a lifetime without you." The train pulled away, carrying us into darkness, into uncertainty. I leaned my head against her shoulder, her arm wrapped tightly around me. For the first time, I felt like we weren't running from something, we were running toward something. Freedom. Love. The world would never accept us. We knew that. We had broken every rule, defied every expectation. Families turned their backs, friends vanished, whispers became knives. But as the miles stretched between us and the life we left behind, I realized something powerful. Acceptance didn't matter. Approval didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the fire we had found in each other, the kind of love people spent lifetimes searching for. Elena kissed the top of my head, her voice steady as she whispered, "Whatever happens, remember this, they can take everything from us, but they can't take this." I lifted my face to hers, our lips meeting in a kiss that was soft yet unshakable. A kiss that carried every promise, every vow, every dream. We had broken all the rules. And for the first time in our lives, we were free.